Lie.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. It is 6 p.m. I will call the June 6, 2022 special school board meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Wolpat, would you please call the roll? Thank you.
Chris Lau.
Here.
Rebecca Reber.
Here.
Brian Wopat here. Barb Wench.
Here.
Jennifer Deek.
Here.
Gary Dunlap.
Here. With 6 of the 6 board members present, I declare a quorum. The approve the agenda. I note that the agenda has been posted, distributed, and sent to local media. With this in mind, are there any changes to the agenda? I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as published.
So moved.
Brian,
Second.
Rebecca. Rebecca second of the agenda items. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to approve the agenda as published, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Please signify by saying yes. No. The motion is approved and a published agenda has passed. So this evening we'll be hosting candidate interviews for the open school board position. I'll begin by describing how this event will proceed. The Board of Education currently has a vacancy due to the resignation of Cheryl Hancock. As part of the board vacancy process, all candidates have submitted an application for the vacant board position. They have been shared with the board for consideration. Thank you for coming forward and volunteering your service. The next step is the candidate interviews. I will moderate the proceedings. The board has a series of questions for candidates. Each candidate will be asked the same question and will respond in rotating order. In the interest of efficiency, candidates are allowed 2 minutes for opening comments, providing information about themselves and why they would like to serve on the board. Candidates have 1 minute to answer subsequent questions and another 1 minute at the end of the question period for any necessary follow-up. The board clerk is responsible for managing the time clock and alerting you when time is about to expire. Please end your responses at that time. After the interview period, which will end by 7 p.m., the board will be able to ask follow-up questions of all candidates. The board will then vote using a signed written ballot. Voting will continue until one candidate receives the majority of the votes cast. If you are selected, you have 5 days to decide if you are willing to serve the remainder of the vacant term until April of 2023. The appointed candidate that decides to serve will be sworn in at the June 13th, 2023 board meeting. To begin tonight's proceedings, we will draw for the order of the candidates. Brian, will you call the order of the names as they are drawn? And then we will rotate the order with each question.
Sue Bramwell. Jennifer Wesley. Mandy Hess. Bridget Todd Robbins. Donna Solka. Sioka. Thank you. And Maggie Smith.
Here's Lexi.
just ask that you all speak into the microphone because we are being live streamed on YouTube. And that the meeting is being recorded. So let's begin by having each candidate provide some information about themselves and why they would like to serve on the Holmen Board of Education. You'll be provided 2 minutes for those opening comments. So we will start with
Okay, well, thanks for having us all here tonight. My name is Sue Bramwell. Lived in Holmen for the past 13-ish years. We built a house out here. All 3 of my children have gone through Holmen. My oldest she'll be a sophomore at Winona State. My middle child will be a senior next year, and my youngest will be in 8th grade. Why do I want to throw my hat in for this? I've thought about that a lot. And really it's come down to an opportunity to serve and to give back and to be an advocate for all of our K through 12 students and families. Really, it comes down to trying to provide the best environment, the best learning environment and psychosocial environment for our K through 12 kids. And just to be an advocate and to be a part of that is very exciting to me. And for me to be able to give back to the community by service on the board would be wonderful. Thanks. I think I have an ability to listen to all sides of different beliefs and perspectives. I try to choose my words very wisely, whether it's the written word or the verbal word. But I really try to listen to understand multiple sides of ideas and arguments, whatever they are. I feel like listening to understand really helps me critically think about my own belief system to consider and maybe reconsider. So I always welcome differing beliefs. I like to truly understand where everyone is coming from, really an effort to help better understand and better communicate and improve our school district. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Wesley. I'm a Holmen High School graduate and the mother of 2 school-aged children here in Holmen. We've lived in the Holmen community myself for 25 some years. My husband and I are small business owners that's based here in Holmen. I first took an interest in serving on the school board in the fall of 2020. I ran for the school board position in 2021 election year, and I considered myself the first runner-up. Even though I was defeated at the time, I've never lost interest in the work of the school board. I've attended many school board meetings in person, and I've watched all the recordings of meetings that I wasn't able to attend in person. In this most recent spring election, I considered running again, but decided instead to support other candidates who filed nomination papers before me. The work that the school board does still continues to be near and dear to me because I'm really in the rut of raising school-aged children and 11 and 12-year-olds, and because I'm a taxpayer of this community. If chosen to fill the board vacancy, I would bring a balanced approach to policies and decision-making. I'm not afraid to explore complex matters and use my skills and knowledge of business ownership and background in finance to guide the district in a continuing forward success. I look forward to serving the students of Holmen and putting their best interests first while being a steward to the taxpayers of the community and bringing trust and integrity to the school board.
Mandy, go ahead.
It's my turn. Yes. Hi, everyone. I am Mandy Hess. I am also a Holmen graduate, and I have 2 children. Well, they're actually 1 now in the school district. My older daughter graduated last year, and my younger daughter is a sophomore at Holmen High School. And I am interested in pursuing this opportunity with the school board because I've worked in the fields of mental health and substance use disorders for the past 15 years. And really feel like we have opportunities within the school district to focus more on supporting kiddos with mental health and substance use disorders. And again, to kind of piggyback off what others have said, the advocacy of the students really interested me in this opportunity.
Thank you. Next we'll have Bridget.
Thank you. I'm Bridget Todd Robbins, and I have been a Holmen resident for over 13 years. My husband currently works for the Holmen School District as an educational assistant in the middle school. We are parents to a son who graduated from Holmen High School last year. And then our two younger children will both be attending Holmen Middle School next year. I've always been really passionate about giving back to our public schools. Over the past years, I've provided countless volunteer hours to some of our classrooms. I was an Evergreen PTO member for almost 6 years. Over the last few years, I've supported the student group called the Cultural Alliance. I've served on the Holmen High School equity team, and I've participated in the district-wide equity work. I'm an advocate of public education and passionate about building a really collaborative, transparent approach around governing our schools. I believe that public schools are not only responsible for providing a high quality, well-rounded academic experience, but also fostering informed and responsible future citizens. From a professional standpoint, I actually work in a position within the school district of La Crosse, and my position was created to actually ensure that students remain in school ready to learn. So I've had a unique perspective around what it takes to really support student needs and really how to identify some of our system barriers and gaps. And also within that position, I've been able to lead county-wide efforts around responding to chronic absenteeism. So I do feel that I would bring extensive knowledge and a very distinctive viewpoint to the Holmen School Board. Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Donna Cielka, and I have been a Holmen resident for over 30 years. I have two children that graduated from Holmen High School, boys back. They went to school here K through 12. Now I have grandchildren entering the district. I have one that'll be a kindergartner next year and another one that's going to be in school in a couple of years. I have been a teacher for 36 years. I've been retired for the last 3 years. I taught in GED. I have taught in kindergarten through 12th grade in either the regular classroom or in special education. I'm passionate about education. I've always been passionate about education. When I retired, I thought, how do I give back to the community? So the pandemic hit, schools closed down. So I didn't start subbing, babysat grandchildren instead. And then came about the time when I could start giving back to the community. So I started working at Wafer. I have served meals for the Hunger Task Force. And then this opportunity came up, I thought, this is something I know a lot about. And maybe this is something that I could give back to the community as well. So I'm here to serve the community. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Maggie Smith, she, her, hers. I am also a parent to district students. I have 3 children attending Evergreen Elementary next year. I am somewhat newer to Holmen. We've lived here for about a year, but I'm not new to working with this district, the Cooley Region districts or school districts around the state. For about 11 years, my role in my 9-to-5 job has involved working with school districts on a variety of policy programs and systems work, specifically within the Holmen School District, that farm to school truck parked outside, and all of the amazing work Mike Gasper and his team have accomplished here was a collaboration with my former role. In my current role, I coordinate adolescent health programming across the state of Wisconsin with an emphasis on social emotional learning and sexual education for a variety of districts and community organizations statewide. I'm also a former school board member from our previous community. And the reasons that I wanted to serve echo that of many others, which is a belief in giving back to the community, a deep gratitude for the school systems, particularly the past few years with all that you've been through and all that you've been asked to do, and as well as just an alignment with my own personal values with those of the district. So I particularly appreciated that equity and integrity and safety were called out by the Holmen School District and felt that I had skills that could help to support those values in this role.
I also am a champion for student voice, so the voice of young people and centering that in the work for the systems that support them in education. Thank you.
So if it turns asking questions, you want me to read them all? Okay, I can start with number one and then we can go your way. Sure. All right, cool. This first question I'll ask, and we'll go to Jennifer first. So why do you want to be elected to the school board, and what are the contributions you think you can make to the leadership of the district?
Well, being the mother of two school-aged children, I do somewhat understand that us parents have to defer some of the critical elements of raising good humans to the educators of whom they spend a big portion of their day with. That being said, because I've got to do that, it's important to me that the schools and the teachers have the best resources available to bring out the best in not just my children, but all the students. As a taxpayer of the community, I want to make sure that the district is fiscally responsible and resourceful to the fullest extent while continuing to operate an outstanding school district with outstanding academics and athletics. As a Holmen alumni and lifelong community member, I have a deep vested interest in making sure Holmen schools are top-notch for years to come.
Next we'll have Mandy.
There we go. Just wanted to make sure it was off mute there. So again, my reason for interest in the school board is student advocacy, focusing on education as well as student mental health. I also look for opportunities to support districts' future, via setting goals, curriculum. I am an adjunct faculty member at Viterbo University and really enjoy, teaching classes as well as creating curricula for college students and education focused on what they're going to do next steps, focusing beyond high school. I also have previous history of, working on boards, and I'm familiar with hiring, evaluating, recruiting staff members, both for a board, but also as a clinical leader within one of the health systems. I would like to be a part of envisioning what we're able to do in the district's educational future, monitoring and assessing students' grading and performance, and to keep the public informed and engaged is a crucial part as well. So that's my reason. Thank you.
Bridget.
Thank you. I think first and foremost, my reason for wanting to be on this school board is to really ensure that all of our students feel safe, connected, and like they belong within our public schools. As a mom of racially diverse children, I just think that's really needs to be first and foremost on my mind and on our minds, along with just all the social emotional needs of our kids, along with having a really wonderful academic experience. I bring experience from being on a board of directors for a large nonprofit in the state. So I've been part of strategic planning, and I also understand budgetary restraints and how to allocate those resources to the best of our ability. And once again, just really want to serve as an example to our leaders of the future, and serving as an example of servant leadership.
So I would say that my reasons for wanting to serve in this role include a commitment to equity and wanting to make sure that every student, my own kids and also everyone else, feels that they have a place in the schools in Holmen, that they feel they belong, they believe they're safe. As someone whose background is aligned with health education, I feel that my approach is pretty central to considering the needs of the whole child and the whole community. I outline this, I think, in my paperwork in front of you, but knowing that if your physical or social emotional needs are unmet, you're not as ready to learn. So considering that all of those pieces go into learning, considering that the school board has a strong fiscal responsibility. I also want to mention my background with managing budgets, large budgets, being the former president of a nonprofit board, and experience with grant writing.
I apologize, Donna, to you. I skipped you in turn, so it's your turn now.
So
That's perfectly fine.
On the back, first one.
My reason for wanting to be serving on the board is that I'm passionate about education. I feel that my values and my vision for education aligns with Holmen School District's values and visions that they have for this great school district. I think that my background serving in K through 12 all these years, I see what happens in the classroom. I understand the challenges. I think we face a lot of challenges, particularly in this day and age, and having a background being in the trenches, if you want to call it that way, I think would be beneficial to serve in this position.
Sue?
Oh, me. That's right. You skipped. Okay. I want to echo a lot what people have said about being a student advocate. And I love the saying that promoting the feeling that everyone belongs. But I also selfishly think I'm just ready for a challenge. I worked for 17 years at Gunderson Health Systems. I've taught at UWL the past 7 years, and I'm just ready to give back in another way. Like I said, to challenge myself with something new. I would look forward to helping to forecast growth in our school district, which we know is imminent and coming, and knowing what the capacities are for the school district buildings, and then planning accordingly for that. That forecasting and planning is exciting to me, and I would love to be a part of that. Yeah, that's it.
What do you think should be the top 3 priorities for the school board to focus on to improve the district during the next 1 to 5 years, and why?
Sorry, that question is to Mandy. You may have to repeat it again. Did you hear the question, Mandy?
No, I did not. I'm sorry.
Say it again. What do you think should be the top 3 priorities for the school board to focus on to improve the district during the next 1 to 5 years, and why?
And that is the question I should take. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, got it. I feel like the district needs to focus on monitoring, assessing the district's performance, keeping the public informed and engaged, to advocate for our students, to focus on their mental health, and to increase diversity within the school district as far as faculty members.
Next would be Bridget.
Well, this is really difficult to come down to 3 priorities. I think number 1 is we need to be really concerned about the retention of our wonderful educators that we have here in the Holmen School District. I think education in general has really suffered the last few years due to the pandemic. And our teachers are at the core of what we bring our students. I think secondly, we need to really start thinking about options for the different needs of our students, whether those be hybrid of virtual and in-class learning, smaller classrooms for those kids who need that, some social emotional learning opportunities for kids due to increased screen time. And then I think thirdly, as one of the fastest growing school districts in the state, we really need to think about a strategic plan regarding our buildings and how we're going to allocate our resources in the future.
I'm going to Donna next.
I guess I would echo the growth. You know, we have a big challenge with the growth in the Holmen School District and the buildings. I was looking over the strategic plan, and I know a lot of people say we have great buildings, we have a lot, and we do, but we also have challenges. You know, we've got a lot of things that need to be done within the buildings, but I also think we need to focus a lot on the equity of the learners in our district. We've got a lot of challenges with the pandemic and some kids I'm sure that have fallen behind. Just making sure that all kids can learn in the way that they need to reach their goals. And not only equity within the classroom, just equity everywhere with, making sure, okay. Equity, growth, and the retention of staff, to summarize.
And it's hard to go late in the answering session because I'm just going to concur. I had the same three things start on my piece of paper. I think that careful plan for growth and addressing findings from the facility assessment. I think care for staff, addressing burnout and retention. And then I think care for the social emotional learning needs and diverse needs of students. So I echo all of the previous answers.
Sue?
Okay, I think the top three priorities for me, what I see is, again, forecasting the population growth and planning accordingly. I've listened to that mid-March meeting that you guys had where there was a report on the buildings and structures, and I can't believe the state of some of the buildings. Was it 3 of the 6 aren't ADA compliant, and nearly impossible to fix that due to the original construction of it. But I think there's a lot of room for improvement. I think our high school is amazing. There's a huge wow factor there. But I think improving our buildings and structures are definitely in the top 3. The third one, wasn't sure if I was going to go there, but something else that needs to be repaired is the relationship in the community between school board and opposing viewpoints. Social media hasn't done us any favors. And I think we all need to be aware of that and to really think before we post. That's all.
These are no particular order, but a lot of what you've already heard. Being in the home building industry, we've watched Holmen explode in growth over the past several years. And my stepsister was the first graduating class that started in this high school when it first opened. And it was not even built to the size of the community at that time. So I think planning, forecasting, and being better prepared for the community's growth, being in line with what we're doing with our school budgets to make sure that our buildings are going to be able to carry that capacity are important. Also, educator recruitment and retention along with that is naturally wages. So making sure that the teachers are competitively paid as they would be in other surrounding school districts. And then third, I think I blended 2 together, but again, fiscally managing, planning ahead for, community growth, and then also being able to maintain the buildings that we have without having to go to referendum all the time.
Want me to read the next question?
Or doesn't matter. Jennifer can do.
Okay. All right, number 3. In the past 2 years, we have seen the politicizing of issues within our community. What has your record been over the past 2 years to foster interpersonal communication between those who see things from different perspectives? And how do you plan to expand this approach to represent the entire community?
Bridget.
Yeah, so actually part of my my job with the School District of La Crosse and La Crosse County Human Services is to really lead community conversations around really difficult topics like racial equity, implicit bias, community engagement as a whole, and really meeting the needs of students. So I feel like I have some of those skills that I've been trained in to really lead some of those discussions and really help foster that communication. And I know that even within this community, I have personally reached out to those with opposing viewpoints to have one-on-one conversations to really understand that other viewpoint and to really learn from one another and really talk about how in the end, what is our goal, and that is, to do what's best for our students in this school district.
Repeat the question again, please.
In the past 2 years, we have seen the politicizing of issues within our community. What has your record been over the past 2 years to foster interpersonal communication between those who see things from different perspectives? And how do you plan to expand this approach to represent the entire community?
I think the first thing you need to do is sit back and listen. Everybody likes to give their opinion, but a lot of times we can learn from each other. The goal for everyone that's so passionate about education is to have the best education for their children and for the community. We can learn from both sides. I know there's been a lot of division over the past 2 years, but we need to listen to both sides, take from both sides, make some decisions together.
And I will echo a lot of that. I think the first step in those tough conversations is to make sure that you're actively listening and not just listening to respond. I think that's a skill, and it's one that can be difficult, especially in polarizing conversations. I would also say that principles of motivational interviewing can be really helpful, making sure you heard it, repeating it back, making sure you're on the same page as you are listening, as well as appreciative inquiry. I also think that centering around where there is shared ground can be beneficial. And I think there is considerable shared ground, even in sort of the divisive communication that we've seen. We all care about our kids. We all care about our educators, about our staff. There's no us versus them. We all live here. We're all part of the same community.
Boy, that's a great question. And that's something that I think about a lot. What is my personal record? I sure try to be respectful, and I listen. I'm thinking specifically with social media, and I've been guilty of not performing or being as respectful as I could or should be, but I really, really try to listen, to understand, and to be respectful. Even if I'm not going to change my belief system, I want to better understand what the opposing view is and understand why they feel that way, and to really legitimize other ideas, and just really ask myself, is what I'm saying helpful? Am I promoting unity, or is what I'm saying divisive? And I really try to sit back and think about my words and actions in effort to avoid that divisive communication.
I definitely believe that the pandemic has brought out stress that has led to really polarized and political issues. But my record of it, as most people know, is I do stand up for what I believe in, and I'm not afraid of doing that. I'm also not afraid of bringing that conversation on a board, even if the rest of the 6 board members completely disagree with me. At least I would try to bring some food for thought and see if there is some common ground in the conversation. But ultimately, doing what's in the best interest of the students is what I would advocate for. Considering suggestions, listening, offering suggestions, just trying to find that common ground, that balancing point where everybody can benefit from whatever the situation may be.
My vantage point, and this is something that I do 45 plus hours a week as a clinical therapist, listening to understand as opposed to listening to respond or have a rebuttal, and definitely focused on that strength-based approach. What can we do to meet in the middle to make sure that everyone is getting their needs met as best as we can?
Question 4.
The board recently took action to limit public participation to items on the agenda. This is typical of other school districts in the Cooley region. However, some say it goes too far to limit the community's ability to participate at board meetings. What are your thoughts on this decision? And if you feel it should be reversed, how do you propose the board avoid topics that are out of the board's control, including misinformation or inappropriate for a school board meeting?
I feel if you set a policy, you need to stick with your policy, or that policy needs to be changed. I do feel that the community definitely has the right to their voice, but I think it needs to be done in a manner that is reasonable, where everyone can be heard. So if that policy were to change, that I would be in favor of having more public input. But I think that it has to be a policy change in order to do that. And I think that as a board member, you have to be willing to listen to the community all the time, whether it's at the grocery store, whether it's at a sporting event. But when it's going to be heard in a public forum, and I think it has to be in a reasonable manner where everyone knows what's going to be on the agenda.
So I'll actually say I do believe that there should be public participation at meetings, but I'll add to that I think that a missing piece in the process is communication about how board meetings work. I don't think a lot of people understand how public comment works. I think they believe you show up, you talk about it, and then the board's going to do something right then and there. So I think that it is an important mechanism for transparent and accessible governance. But I think there do need to be bumpers, maybe an agreement to shared values about not disparaging individuals, about adhering to time limits. Maybe we could get like a little stop sign going for people, and that we will be respectful in communication. And if those values are not upheld, then I believe there should be a reason for that person or persons not to continue to make public comment.
I understand the pros and cons of both sides of that, eliminating it and adding it back. I would welcome public participation again. I think that face-to-face communication, I would welcome that a lot more than communication behind a computer screen. And I think that if somebody feels strongly about something, that they come in here and talk about it publicly in front of you guys and stream to the public. I think it's worthy to be heard in the face-to-face forum. I love Maggie's idea of educating them on the process of it, what public participation means, and what we can expect from it. I think that that's a great idea. As far as limiting topics, I would have no idea how to limit topics and people, and well, you don't want to limit people, but just so we can eliminate duplicity in the public participation and somehow limiting it, but I don't know how you would. Thanks.
I was not a fan of the change in the public participation policy recently. I feel like public participation is the community and the parents' way of really connecting with the board on what is weighing on their heart. I feel like in a public participation format, when there's just more onus on the board members to really listen to that person versus getting an email or a phone call that they perhaps don't have time to take. So I would like public participation to come back in the format that it originally was. And as far as debunking misinformation, misinformation is such a weird word right now. Is it misinformation and what you believe versus what she believes? Or is it, facts, and what kind of facts? Are we talking science again? Because none of us here are scientists that I'm aware of. But otherwise, I think, yes, public participation is a critical element in a community.
I also support public participation at the meetings, along with some of those parameters that were discussed earlier, just so that folks do have a good understanding of what the expectations are and understand what next steps are if they feel like their voice isn't being heard. So I support public participation.
And although I completely understand why the school board made that decision, I do believe that public participation is incredibly important when it comes to transparency and really listening to students, parents, guardians, and other stakeholders in our community. And so I would be in favor of bringing that back along with some parameters around guidelines, values, maybe limiting the number of speakers in an evening and so on. But I do believe that that is a really important aspect of building those relationships between school and community.
Here, you want to take question 5?
Sure. With limited resources, how should the school district prioritize the balance among core academic instruction, the arts, and co-curriculars?
Goes to Maggie.
Sure. So I think with this question, one perspective is considering the voice of the young people who are affected. So asking for student input, student voice, student leadership in some of the decision making. I would also say to consider data. We know that not everyone learns the same way, and we know that not everyone has the same shared values about what they want to achieve in life. And then I would also say to look to partnerships when there are tough decisions. So if there is a service that the district has to make a hard decision about, to consider public or private partnerships to try to continue the service as we're best able to.
That's another great question. I think we need to first determine which has the greatest need. And again, that a great idea with polling and asking children and families themselves. I also wonder if we can redistribute funds somehow to direct those to the places with the biggest need. Can we pursue some sort of fundraising, or are there grants available for additional funding? But I think you got to look at where the greatest need is. And yeah, the students and family and stakeholders can help us determine that.
Holmen has shown over the years that this community supports the school district. We've seen it in the referendums that we've done multiple times. They've been very, very strong and very successful. So with that, we've been able to deliver these academic and arts and co-curricular programs with what appears to be, great support from the community. In the event that we aren't able to, or we're financially falling behind in some aspect, I feel that the community would step up and support it, not necessarily through another referendum, but whether it's through, more outreach programs, more volunteering from community members, or getting more people to organize more clubs where it's, offloaded off of the district's hands and put into the hands of more private clubs, so that the kids can still get the, fulfill those academics and athletics and whatnot in this area. It's just more managed by the community than it is the school district.
Mandy?
I support student feedback, getting their feedback as to what they would like to see offered. Of course, research behind that, what students need, what they will benefit from, what we can offer. And then, of course, that collaboration with community resources. If there are things that we cannot provide within the school budget, to look to those community resources to support our students.
So obviously, we have no choice but to meet some of our statute and policy guidelines around some of the academics that we support. But I also believe in asking our students what they find to be most important. And as someone who works with youth on a daily basis, I think we would be surprised at what our students would have to say about this. I also believe that we're never going to meet the needs of all our students by school resources alone. And I truly believe wholeheartedly in improving our relationships and our partnerships with community partners and even our families in providing some of these programs and co-curricular activities that we know are really important for our students.
I believe I'd look at the core first and see what's essential for graduation, make sure that we have the funds in place to support all the programs that we've adopted and have the resources to make sure that they're taught and fulfilled the way that we want them to. Obviously, the arts and the co-curricular is extremely important as well. So then I would look at the needs of the district, definitely get input from community and from students to find out where we can best use our funds. I know co-curricular does tons of fundraising. They've been successful with that. Not that they should always have to do that, but it has been something that we've worked our way around, I guess, to get some funds to some programs that are very, very important. But using community resources, I think, are definitely a way to limit what we need to fund through the school district.
Question 6 part.
What do you see as the most significant external threats to the success of our schools and students?
This one is to Sue first.
Ooh, significant external threats. Can you repeat it one more time?
What do you see as the most significant external threats to the success of our schools and students?
External threats. Well, in today's day and age, I mean, the first thing that comes to me is that I think about is their physical safety. The school shootings, there's no perfect answer to that. Gun control, metal detectors, I don't know what the answer is. I don't know that there's a best answer. I also think about what I listened to at that March meeting about the everyday safety issues, physical safety issues at Evergreen, with the crosswalk and the backed up traffic. Those students and parents and teachers are every day are facing physical threats, and we've got to fix that. Those are the first things that come to mind. It sounds so ominous. Significant external threats. That's what I'm thinking of right now in this day and age is the physical safety of our kids.
It's hard to think of anything right now besides the physical safety of our kids in light of what has happened recently. The security in our schools, I'm very impressed by it, sometimes annoyed with it. Midday when I go to drop something off at school, it feels like I can't get in, but that's there for a reason. And I think it's been very effective in the way we've been working it. And the fact that I believe all buildings are now 2-stage entry makes me feel very good as a parent. I believe that violence coming into our schools is the most significant exterior threat right now, and keeping school resource officers in all schools and continuing to keep our security top notch is about the only way we can mitigate that.
I am most concerned about physical safety, given what's been going on around the world, and also because of what I do for a living, students' mental health and well-being. Those are my two primary concerns.
As someone who works with youth on a daily basis, we are in the midst of a mental health pandemic in relation to our youth. And so we really need to figure out how to best wrap around our kids and provide some of those supports that they have been missing out on the last few years. I also think that is a root cause of some of the safety issues that have been mentioned. I also believe that the political divisiveness that is affecting not only our community, but our nation as a whole is adversely affecting our kids, our teachers, our staff, our community. And it's showing up in behaviors that we're seeing in our classrooms and in our schools on a daily basis, whether that be racial slurs, bullying incidents, and truly kind of a lack of kids being able to use that active listening and get along with others who don't believe in the same things that they believe in.
I would say the same. Physical safety, but I was thinking very much about the mental health of all of our students and our staff. You know, we've put a lot of pressure on teachers. Students feel it at home. The political situation right now is dividing families, not necessarily within your nuclear family, but your extended family. Kids feel that. So having developed to have a place to go to school where you feel safe, where you feel that you belong and feel that you are going to learn and not feel like you're going to be bullied is a place that we need to create for kids in school.
And I'll echo all of that. I kind of wish I could just like start applauding when people talk or thumbs upping or something. I think the political divide and its effects on the district is a real challenge, as well as the violence, and considering both up and downstream approaches to preventing gun violence would be important. as well as mental health overall in a really saturated system. It's even when you know you need help, it's really hard to get help. And that's not something I believe schools can solve alone. And then with all of those, I would also add funding as an overall concern, whether it's funding as a result of that political divide with people choosing to go to private schools or voucher impacts, or whether it's state level political decisions that undercut public education.
So we're at 6:52. Do we want to, any more questions? Do we want to go through the process? I guess I'm looking for advice from you, Stacy, on this. Want to go till 7? We have one more question that we want to ask, or
Time to do one more round.
one more round, you think?
One more question.
Oh, okay. I can ask this one. So some believe that there are examples of divisive curriculum in the school district of Holmen, while others believe it doesn't exist at all. What are your thoughts, and how do you plan on supporting staff who adhere to the Wisconsin academic state standards based on this claim? So it would go to Jennifer first.
I don't know if it can be verified or not, what's in, what divisive information is in the curriculum, but if it's not necessarily in the curriculum, it's not to say that teachers aren't being persuasive in their classrooms when delivering the curriculum. I think that's maybe a concern of parents right now, is just what teachers are personally bringing into their classroom discussions that perhaps aren't in line with the curriculum and are political in nature and weigh on our children in a way that they're not sure how to, if it's different from what their parents say, then, they're not sure if they should just believe what their teacher is telling them or continue to hold on to family values. And but whether or not it actually exists, I can't confirm. So.
Mandy?
I'm not aware of any specific divisive curriculum. I have conversations with my kids about, what teachers will talk about, and we talk about, that it's good to have openness to other people's beliefs, ideas. Some will align with what we agree with, some won't, but also just emphasize the importance of being open to other things. As far as a specific divisive topic, I am not aware of any. So with that, I will pass.
I am also not aware of any divisive curriculum that exists currently within the Holmen School District. I know there has been concern around this topic of critical race theory, which I think there's a lot of misinformation and myths around that. I believe that our teachers are our greatest resource and that we have to have some trust and empower them to do what they're trained and educated to do. So I try to be very open-minded and supporting our teachers and having a lot of generous assumptions around what they're teaching our kids. And, when I look at the mission statement of the Holmen School District, it's to prepare students for tomorrow through an engaging, inclusive educational community today. And I think we need to offer opportunities within that curriculum for some critical thinking, to have that global perspective, and to really understand, our true history in this country.
I guess I'd reiterate that as well. I'm not sure what the divisive curriculum is, so it's hard to respond to that question. But I would say that I would think that we need to trust our teachers to be able to know what is right, what is wrong, what they should and shouldn't be saying in the classroom. If that's happening and it's unintentional, then it needs to be discussed. But without any more information on the divisive curriculum, I guess I don't have a lot to respond to that question.
I'll agree with a lot of what Bridget said. I don't believe, and what's been said previously, I don't believe that there's a divisive curriculum happening in secret in the district. And I think that to be frank, we should all be doing our very best to raise humans who can stand up to racism. I think we should be having more of those difficult conversations and looking at why in positions of power, the people who hold them are often white. I think we should be listening to people with backgrounds and lived experiences other than ours, more so than what we are, and instilling those values in the humans we're raising and educating.
And just to say again, I have not witnessed or been aware of or ever been concerned with a divisive curriculum. If there are specific examples of that, I would love to hear them, because if it is in fact happening, yeah, that's cause for concern. But I think as far as going from divisiveness to diversity, I think anytime we can learn about a culture of people that don't share our history, don't share our color, I think anytime we can learn about different types of people, that's just going to lead us to greater empathy, greater understanding, and ultimately just being better citizens. We're going to help these K through 12 students beyond graduation. It's going to help their creativeness, their critical thinking, their problem solving, if they can be submerged in that diverse and healthy environment in K through 12. We're going to set them up for success in their workforce or college by promoting and encouraging diversification.
So is there anything that anyone has as a result of any of the questions or something you forgot that you'd like to add? Go ahead.
In addition to that last question, I do want to say that I think it's important that educators and curriculum is not teaching our kids what to think, but rather how to think. And then in closing, I just want to say that of all the applicants here today, I feel that I'm the only one that have shown a previous interest in serving our community in this capacity. I'm the only one that's received votes from the public, over 1,200 of them, as a matter of fact. And I believe I would be a good fit for this position. And I would hope that you would consider my past experience in running for the position.
Anything for Mandy? So at this time, the board will select a candidate. Board members will fill out a signed written ballots for the candidates of their choice. And we all have ballots, I believe, in front of us. And then these will go to Brian to tabulate.
There needs to be at least 4.
4. All right, so we do not have 4. So we have to take a second vote.
Do you want to read, do we need to know what they were?
Yes, I can do that. 2 for Maggie Smith, 3 for Bridget Todd Robbins, and 1 for Donna Sioka. Maggie Smith. All right, we do have a winner. Bridget Todd Robbins. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Bridget, for receiving the majority of the votes cast and being appointed to the Board of Education. If Bridget accepts the appointment, the oath of office will take place on the June 13th, 2022 board meeting. The board will elect a board president and the other necessary officers at this meeting as well. I want to thank everybody who applied. That was great to see the engagement and having everybody come out. I appreciate your time, your thoughtfulness, and your willingness to serve in our community. So thank you. Do we need to just, anything else we need to do then, Stacy, or is this?
Just, you can adjourn now if you'd like.
Okay. So with the interviews completed and the election done, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, the motion passes. Thank you for coming out.